안녕하세요 여러분, 엠쌤입니다. Hi everyone, Margarita here, and in today's episode, I decided to do something that a lot of you have been asking me for a very long time. I am going back to making more educational content. I've actually had some people reaching out to me and almost giving me the opportunity and the topics and the reason to make a video. So here I am with you making a Korean education video. Let's do this. Wait, this one had to be flipped. Okay, so long story short, the author of these two textbooks contacted me a couple of months ago and asked for me to just take a look at his books. I'm not being sponsored, he didn't pay me. He did send these books over to me to take a look at them and just share my thoughts with you guys. And as you know, I'm a big believer in personalized learning. I feel like even though all of us are doing the same thing, which is learning Korean, all of us are doing it at a different pace with different resources and different learning styles. So I want to share with you guys as many Korean learning resources as I can find, even though I might not actively use them or they might not work well for me, like certain, I don't know, Korean learning apps, for example, on smartphones. I don't really use them, but I know that a lot of you have benefited from me reviewing them and sharing that they exist with you guys. So here I am today, letting you in on some of my thoughts on these books called Korean Grammar for Speaking, number 1 and number 2. Let's go. Alright, so I'm going to start with the first book, which I believe is meant for complete and utter beginners. And I think that way because it starts, well, you guessed it, with the alphabet. I had a slight little issue with how this section was delivered, I guess. Even though I really like the idea of showing people how the alphabet is written, I also felt like at times, for example, here, you just get literally a sheet of paper filled with Korean words and you don't really know what to do with them. There's no guidance, there's no explanation or task that you're given anywhere on this page. I don't know, am I supposed to trace them with a pencil and try to correct my handwriting? Am I meant to look up what these words mean? I do kind of see the point of leaving it up to our imagination of like what we can do with these words, but who are we kidding? As people who just start learning Korean, I think having more guidance is better than having less. I'm not saying that this is a bad beginning of a book, but I would feel like this would be a bit more intimidating for people who are just starting out with Korean. The next chapters and the way this entire book is set up is fairly consistent. This is where my opinion kind of differs depending on if I'm talking from a beginner's point of view or my own personal point of view where I'm somewhere between intermediate and advanced, because I really like the bite-sized setup where you literally every 2 pages you have a topic, a theme, an explanation with tons of examples and irregular usages and whatnot, and then you just get an exercise page where you try yourself at applying whatever you just learned. But then the moment you flip the page, it's a new topic, completely new topic. Like this one goes from, what is it? 그런데, 는데 to 일 것이다. Completely unrelated, which is not a bad thing when I feel like you are a more experienced learner, when you sort of focus on certain things when you're learning. I don't know how you guys learn, but for me, if I'm given all of these different topics that are super interesting, I'm going to just like try and attempt to do all of them, but I won't be able to retain that information for a long period of time because the moment I did a little bit of 그런데, 는데, right? I'm then straight away jumped into 을 것이다, future tense, a verb conjugation, like completely different stuff. And because I am an avid Korean learner, I'm just gonna delve into it because it's interesting to me. But I feel like that passion is going to prevent me from then solidifying that knowledge that I got from the previous chapter on 그런데. Does that make sense to you guys? I feel like this format is really good for more advanced learners and also for very busy people because all of these units are extremely bite-sized. Like it will take you about 20 minutes probably to look over all the grammar, understand it, look at the examples, and then attempt to do things yourself. Whereas I feel like other textbooks have bigger chapters that encompass a lot more grammatical concepts and they put them together so that you can have an entire hour of 2 hours of just kind of working on one single unit. Also, I haven't been able to see information repeating itself throughout the chapters. Mind you, I haven't had the time to literally go through the entire textbook, so maybe it does. Maybe certain principles from the earlier chapters do follow in the later ones, but there's no like review section, which I feel like would be quite useful. Maybe halfway through the book or something. I would say if you are an intermediate or an advanced learner, skip this one, go straight for number 2. Having reviewed the first book, I'm going to say one thing that I'm very concerned about, and then I'm gonna jump into all the good things I think about these books, because there are quite a few. So the one concerning thing I have about actually both of these books, because they're called the same, is their name. Because they're called Korean grammar for speaking. And the moment you pick it up as a learner, you think, oh my god, I'm gonna go through this book and I'm gonna be able to talk Korean. Oh, amazing. I highly doubt that. And that is from my personal experience mixed together with having used a lot of other textbooks and honestly having browsed through these ones and having actually taken the time to do some of the exercises in the second book. I don't know if you guys can see, but I really actually took my time and went through these units. But my point is, I don't think there will ever be a textbook that if you go from the first cover to the last cover, you'll be able to speak that language. Yes, you will be maybe beginnerishly conversational, but there's so much that is lacking from just sitting at a desk and learning with these books and actually going out there and talking to people. No textbook will instill confidence in you. No textbook will give you speaking practice unless you just read out what you wrote all the time, which you can do, but still, you're more likely to be alone and not really talking to anybody, not really reading out to anybody. So my point is, I am just not a fan of the name of these books, as I feel like they can be misleading. These textbooks 100% will make you an expert in writing Korean, reading Korean, and potentially understanding Korean people talking to you, maybe slowly with a good Seoul accent, maybe not Saturi, because that is a crazy cool accent that I was not able to understand at all when I went to Korea. And actually, the pro of these books, which I think seriously makes these books such a treasure chest of resources, is the vocabulary. The only way I can see how this book can actually be useful for speaking is the fact that all the vocab that you encounter in this book is actually useful. You know how, especially in beginner books, when you encounter a vocabulary list, you mainly see words like cat, dog, home, mom, dad, flower, rainbow, cloud. You know, it's just words that you wouldn't normally use in everyday conversation unless you're talking about the weather, your parents, or your pets. But here, the moment I opened, okay, it wasn't the beginner book, it was the intermediate advanced book, but the moment I tried doing the first unit, the verbs in there were like to make a payment, to make a deposit, to be a guarantor. Like, I have never even seen or had any experience with these Korean words because, well, I've never tried to make any payments, like a bank transfer or anything, or rent property or do anything that requires a deposit in Korea, but if I ever had to, I would be totally lost. But here, these vocab words really make you grounded and give you an idea of what real Korean sounds like, gives you an insight into what words actual Korean people use when they are going about their daily life. So I thought that was incredibly useful. I also thought that another great thing about these books that just put them above so many other and highly rated Korean textbooks at the moment in the market is that these have answers to every single exercise and every single test. Yes, they have a test at the end of each book, which I honestly feel like should be broken down into smaller tests, kind of merged throughout the book. That's just my personal preference. I am not saying that this way is bad, but yeah, I would prefer mini tests or mini quizzes throughout the book rather than one big test at the end. But nevertheless, it has all the answers. Every single exercise that you have in the book by unit has an answer. That is so useful. I am holding a grudge against, what was it, the Integrated Korean series that does not have any answer for any exercise in any of their workbooks. I mean, how? I just don't get it. How do you know if you did something correct? How do you know if you made a mistake? How do you learn? But nevertheless, I feel like my final verdict for these books would be that I recommend them. And I feel like the person who would be able to benefit from these the most would be a very busy learner and somebody who is not super passionate or eager to just learn more and more and more and more, but then lose all of it because they were just going for quantity rather than quality. So is this the best book to start with as a complete beginner? Probably not. Should you still, you know, try and get your hands on it if there's like no other Korean textbook available for you? Yeah, totally. It is awesome, especially if you're busy and you just want a little bit of Korean at a time. And yeah, let me guys know if you have any experience using these books or what are your current favorite Korean textbooks. I am very eager to use these books to find more Korean topics to share with you guys and make this Korean learning journey awesome and enjoyable for you all. So I hope you're all having the most wonderful time. I will see you all really, really soon. Bye! 안녕!